Now for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning, let's bring in Arise analyst, Dr. Constance Ikokwu. Good morning, Dr. Constance.
Very good morning to you, Yolanda. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Good morning to you too, Charles and Adesua.
Good morning, Dr. Constance.
It's midweek already.
Yes.
Thank God for that.
Thank God for that. A lot of work. Well, to talk about the news or discuss the news with us this morning, we have Emmanuel Azikian. He is a columnist with Vanguard newspaper and former political editor. Hello then, welcome to the program. We'll begin with this day newspaper. Tinubu to Nigerians, don't let politics divide us. Unveils NIS technology complex. President Bola Tinubu says we're one in spite of the divisions. He described Nigerians as occupants of one building but living in different rooms. What's your take at this attempt to calm nerves and, ostensibly rally Nigerians, Emmanuel?
Well, the president is acting as a statesman. He couldn't have said anything otherwise. And it's remarkable he said this at the unveiling of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu Technology Innovation Center, BATIC, which is a collaboration between the Ministry of Interior and Aviation. You see two of the poster boys of the administration, that's Minister Keyamo, Minister Tunji Ojo, working together to bring forth working together to bring forth a scheme that is supposed to enhance entry into Nigeria and out of Nigeria. Now, what the president has said is that those are the words of a statesman. But as we always say, actions speak louder than words. The president is supposed to carry out this this matter of bringing the nation together. He is the one to take the lead by acts of inclusiveness, and we will continue to say, like in the issue of appointments, in the issue of positioning of people into his administration, he has to demonstrate that by making sure that every part of Nigeria, all Nigerians are included into his administration. Take frontal role in policy articulation and policy implementation.
The president was there to commission that technology complex. Minister Tunji Ojo and his team have been making strides, especially with regard to this issue concerning visa application and enhancing other processes at the Nigerian Immigration Service. This is an important project that the president went to open, Charles.
Very, very important indeed. I remember Nigerians have to go through all sorts of stress, getting visa, traveling out of the country, particularly those countries that are our favorited destinations. So I think it's high time Nigeria to tidies up its own immigration processes for those visiting the country. I think we've been taken for granted more than enough time. So I believe that this is a stitch in time.
And using technology, to solve problems rather
Absolutely.
than carrying files from one place to the other, which is the usual practice. Daily Trust reps ask CBN to address cash crunch. Apex Bank tightens news on fintechs. The cash crunch is disrupting economic activities and causing hardship to citizens. There's currently cash scarcity and arbitrary charges by point of sale POS operators. Vice President Kashif Shettima has called on banks to quickly resolve this scarcity. I mean, too many problems. What are you hearing about what's actually going on with this, Emmanuel?
Cash crunch is... Nigerians are amazed. We are surprised over why this problem should be persisting up to this time. Taking into consideration, this was something that started just before the election season. And the central bank has to be put to the task. You have you have departments of branch operations. I think the CBN should monitor the processes. They should investigate, follow the trail. Why is it that you go to ATMs, or you go to the other day I went to an ATM, and I went to 5 ATMs and I couldn't get money. I entered the bank and they told me they could give me only 5,000 naira. And I think that is ludicrous. The CBN should take the lead. They should probe the process, follow the trail. Mark you, in 1984, March 1984, General Buhari implemented a currency change within weeks, and the country moved on. One is surprised why this country is not able to move on after that. After the cash currency change that the government started to implement, which they have not even finished. It's disgraceful that Nigeria now, you have two colors of currency. You don't know which one is 500 naira. You know, you have two colors of 500 naira, two colors of our currencies. And it is not
concentrate very hard before you hand
the
over your
difference between
change.
200 naira and
Yes.
500 naira.
You have to, yes, but I think very importantly is that the House has asked the Committee on Banking Regulations to investigate. A member of the representatives stood up yesterday and he said, you know, legitimate businesses don't have access to cash, farmers don't have access to cash, people in their villages who are trying to purchase food and get ready for the Utah season don't have access to cash, but a POS operator can have a million naira at their disposal. And you go to a wedding and you see someone selling cash, mint cash. And what it means is that we have normalize the commodification of our currency. We are selling our currency to ourselves. You're having to pay to access your own hard-earned money.
That's
and the
right.
CBN came out earlier and said they're sending a warning to the banks, they're sending a warning to XYZ, but very importantly is that you need to put action behind your words.
Exactly.
And so they must sit up and
Right.
really address this.
Well, let's see whether there's any change coming. New Telegraph, Japa, stay, fight for Nigeria, Ajero urges nation's youth. The Labour leader, Joe Ajero, said that running away is not the solution. He made this call during the third quadrennial delegate conference of the National Youth Council of Nigeria. I mean, we can have this conversation all day. There are pros, cons, and different perspectives regarding leaving the country. The bottom line, though, is that no one is going to build your country for you, Charles. You can come in here. Foreign investors will not build it for you. You will have to do the heavy lifting.
We have a foreign investor right here on our table.
I wonder why we have a problem with the patriotism, but Yolanda, you're very well traveled, so tell us about
Why you decided to stick with us?
Very good point, but I think, you know, different strokes for different folks. If you want your people to stay back, then you have to provide the opportunities for them. You cannot say such things and expect people to just, you know, break their back and stay behind and not explore their horizons when there are no opportunities to do so.
That's why it's called the greener pastures. I
do not know if Yolanda is a foreign investor. We are paying her to be in our country, so she's not a foreign investor.
She has brought a skill set here.
That's right.
Okay, let's
Thank you,
look at
Charles.
another Daily Trust story. It's confusing me. Okwewolo struggles with budget amount.
Wow.
Hang on. Emmanuel, you can come in here. This is not surprising. The man, Edo State Governor Mondo Okwewolo, he struggled to express himself during the campaign. So why is there a shock here, Emmanuel?
So I don't think we are. I'm not surprised. People are not surprised, but we expected that he should have been better prepared. Especially the presentation of budget is like a state affair. It's something that I expected that he would have been more rigorous in preparing himself. But the point I want to take is the reaction of the party. This morning, I saw the chairman of the party in the Edo State saying that, dismissing it, asking the critics to go to hell, that whosoever was not satisfied with the delivery of the governor should go to hell, that he didn't owe explanation to anybody. I don't think that should not be the narrative. One sympathizes with the governor, one expects him, he's a man, and this is something personal. One expects him to go and prepare better so that he can face the public.
Has also been senator, yes.
So what's coming to you? The bar has been set so low in this country. That's what this indicates, because it means that anybody that doesn't have any business in government can come in and crack on with it without people putting them, stopping them from that?
Yes, I honestly, the reason I was jumping in there is because I'm an Edo babe myself, and it is honestly embarrassing. I'm so embarrassed as a Benin girl to see the governor do this. But something else that happened yesterday in Edo State, is on Sapele Road in Benin, is that the tribunal for this governor's election, the election tribunal was overrun by suspected thugs who stormed the venue, and this is a pre-tribunal sitting on the governorship election tribunal for this particular governor. And we have to remember that he ran against a legal luminary in the person of Asue Godalo. And so for me, it's very disheartening, beyond parties, put party aside, that you think that somebody can you can have somebody in the person of Asui Godalo who's very intelligent, who's very well read, who's built businesses, and Bawa and Igodalo is one of the most prestigious law firms in this country. I applied to go there. And then you have a governor who is struggling to read a budget he wrote himself and did not even have the imagination to do anything but just call it renewed hope.
You're assuming he wrote it himself. But let me just play devil's advocate here.
Yes, I like what you said, Charles.
He wrote, it was written in numbers,
yes,
not
in words.
So he stumbled with the words after the numbers.
Absolutely.
After he stumbled with the numbers, he stumbled with the words.
Do we know that for sure?
I watched it.
We haven't seen that, but we can actually understand.
Okay, let's look at Daily Sun. As Kogi Governor Bello to spend Xmas New Year in Kuje prison, as court adjourns bail application until January 29. He is accused of 110 billion naira fraud. Well, the white lion seems to have been tamed after all the theatrics leading to this. The
white lion is in a cage.
Yes, as Charles says.
But from what we say, like in Bobrisky's case, we have known that there is executive prison. You can be in prison and not be in prison, Emmanuel.
And be in prison, but whatever comfort he has in prison, the fact is that the man has been caged, or rather tamed as a lion, or the white lion as he was carried about, as it were. Now, I think this is a fallout from the fact that his lawyers filed for his bail even before he was arrested or even arraigned. And this was the legal point that Justice Aneni came out to, this was the point that upon which Justice Aneni used to refuse him bail. It's so unfortunate. I don't think all the drama that preceded this trial was unnecessary. If the man had really given himself up to the EFCC when the commission demanded, we probably would have avoided all this. Well, the governor has said that he was trying to fight for his rights. We saw how he fought for his rights, and the Supreme Court did rule that the attempt to remove the validity or the legitimacy of the EFCC could not stand. It was following that he surrendered himself.
Let's quickly look at other papers. Nigerian Tribune, Reps Southern Caucus backs tax reform bills. Court remands Yahaya Bello again in Kuje prison. We've seen that story. Nigeria recorded 467,000 tuberculosis cases in 2023. We also have Daily Independent, 17,000 state reps back tax reform bills, urge national support. Tinubu names Ogunjimi acting accountant general of the Federation. We're talking earlier about the inclusiveness and the appointments that the president has been making. A lot of people are looking at that. Reps task FG on countermeasures against the new COVID-19 variant. Also, The Guardian this morning, cash scarcity worsens as banks upgraded digital platforms falter. Cybercrime law defamation now weapons of prosecution, NGE Serap say. To the international headlines, Daily Graphic, first transitional meeting between President Akufo-Addo and Mahama takes place. Mahama is the president-elect. Citizen newspaper, why hold racism report? This is a running story in South Africa. There was an alleged case of racism in Pretoria High School for girls, for which the principal was suspended in July for failing to intervene after she was made aware of the case. It was a WhatsApp message between students. It's been a battle to get the Gauteng Education Board to release the report of the investigation. I mean, Yolanda, it's always tricky in these instances, accusing people of racism, having to prove it, and having to punish the accused, and maintaining peace and order and harmony in that environment. It's a tough one.
It is a tough one, and I say this with a very heavy heart, because this is my region from Africa, and I think there have been one too many racism issues going on in South Africa, something that we thought would have stopped after the apartheid, but it seems they keep reoccurring in different ways. It has different faces, it has different looks, but at the end of the day, it's still the same thing. If I can remind you, not exactly directly racism, but the Chidima thing, for example, with the pageantry and all of this, white-only group that now, from what I read in the report, well, the part that I did see was that it was 12 girls who were talking about, being left out of a white-only WhatsApp group. And for such things to be ignored, and for Gauteng province to say something like that, like, oh, we're not going to release that, or there's nothing worth looking into, is very troubling. It's quite troubling.
Let's look at Daily Mail. Like many women, I'm conflicted about the hot assassin. I mean, this story is so weird. There's a general sentiment of shock regarding the capture and arrest of the killer of Brian Thompson, the healthcare CEO. There's been online videos of people, talking about how hot this killer is, Louis Guy Mangione, rather than the heinous crime that he has committed. It's just outlandish, Yolanda.
Well, I don't think it's, far-fetched. We've had many cases in the past where we've had very hot criminals. For example, what's the serial killer's name?
That had a whole group of people
in
love with him.
And there was also another criminal who people were in love with him because of his eyes. So as much as it is a bit concerning, I don't think it's quite, out of the ordinary to have cases like this. And, I must admit, he is a good-looking young man.
Okay, let's leave it there. Let's not talk about his good looks and talk about, also the technology that was used to arrest him. He had a hood over his head and he had a mask. And so they were only able to get his eyes, and through technology and matching, they got him, chewed him for 5 days and got him. So he's going to be facing some jail time. Newspaper, new turmoil in the Middle East as neighbors launch attacks inside Syria. Israel announces it has destroyed the Syrian naval fleet with Israeli troops now operating in Syria. Turkey bombs Kurdish targets in northern Syria. And I mean, it's just a free-for-all. Everybody's involved. And Netanyahu himself is accused of corruption in his own country while he's bombing another person's country. Emmanuel can come in here.
If I may say, what is happening in Syria, it's a fallout of the agitations by Israel to push back the enemies from outside. Now, I want to first of all make the point that we no longer hear about the Middle East peace process. What we hear now is the issue of the Palestinian question. It seems as if every other person, every other country in the Middle East have sorted themselves out with Israel. You have Saudi Arabia through the Abraham Accords. You have Qatar and all others. What stopped the former rapprochement was what happened on October 7, 2023. Now, what Israel is trying to do is to ensure that Iran, as it were, and other hostile countries who are refusing to make peace with it do not use the turmoil we have in Syria to create another destabilizing ground for it. So Netanyahu, whatever issues he has at home, is trying to make a buffer territory around his country to ensure that the rebels, who are yet to be clearly defined as concerning their ideological or diplomatic intentions with Israel, do not find a foothold to destabilize Israel.
A lot coming out of Syria. We know that the jails, they've broken into the jails and seen a lot of people that were held, blood-stained prisons. And then, of course, the head of the rebel group, his group was once a terrorist group. Now the United States is saying if he has a change of heart, they will work with him. A lot coming out of that. There's also in Brazil, the president had a brain surgery, Lula Inácio da Silva. He's 79, that comes with age, but I think a lot of people are wishing him a quick recovery. That's all we have for the paper review this morning. Thank you so much, Emmanuel Azike, for joining us.
Well, that's all the time we have for you today on Daybreak. It's goodbye from me. I'm Adesua Giwa Osage.
And Dr. Constance, thank you so much too. Please do keep it here on Arise News. I'm Charles Eruka.
And I'm Yolanda Robert. The morning show is next. Stay tuned.